the Israelis were carrying out a series of attacks in the Middle East, specifically in Iraq, against pro-Iranian militias. Why did they do that at that point? They were working with Pompeo.
To do what?
Very clear, to provoke war with Iran. They were hoping the Iranians would react and give Pompeo the opportunity to get Trump to go to war with
This is right. There appears to be more proof that the reason the Trump administration gave for killing Soleimani was actually bogus. Remember late last week when we brought you the blockbuster story about Soleimani being blamed for attacking the U.S. base? In fact, once again, here's Mr. Trump, so you can hear it for yourself, saying that or explaining that as the reason that he had to kill him. Here it is.
The recent attacks on U.S. targets in Iraq, including rocket strikes that killed an American and injured 4 American servicemen very badly, as well as a violent assault on our embassy in Baghdad, were carried out at the direction of Soleimani.
Well, as we and the New York Times and many others have now reported, it turns out it wasn't Soleimani that was responsible for the rocket attack that Mr. Trump just talked about there. The one that killed the U.S. contractor and it injured 4 U.S. soldiers. It was almost assuredly ISIS, who has nothing the hell to do with Soleimani, by the way. Now, it appears there is more evidence. By law, the White House had to inform Congress of its reason for killing Soleimani. And we have the memo right here. On this memo, which I have for you because we dug it up, it says absolutely nothing about specific rocket attacks. Instead, it talks in general and vague generalities, right? Vague generalities about the Quds force and what it may have done or might do in the future without any specific denotations of actions or imminent threats. In other words, this doesn't say what the president just said that I played for you, right? Joining us now, Gareth Porter. He's an independent journalist, author, and policy analyst specializing in U.S. national security issues. He's also the author of a great book, The CIA Insider's Guide to the Iran Crisis. What do you make of this, by the way? This has all just happened in the last 3 or 4 days. We've been all over this. Mr. Trump said that the reason we killed Soleimani was because he attacked a U.S. base. It turns out not only is that not true, but now we have this document that he sent to Congress. Nowhere on this document does he say that.
Well, the fact is that that was actually reported by the New York Times at the time, that the people in the field in Kirkuk were not sure who had done it.
Right.
They were going to investigate it, and the Iraqi military was in charge of that investigation.
And the Iraqi military has now come out and said it was ISIS.
They've now come out and said it was ISIS. And here's the real point.
Yeah.
Who was it who really convinced Trump to carry out that attack under the circumstances where there was still an ongoing investigation?
I have 2 guesses, and you're going to tell me which one. I'm going to give you 2. Ready? Saudi Arabia and Israel.
Well, I'm going to tell you it's Pompeo, but behind Pompeo, of course, he works very closely with the Israelis. So Mike Pompeo was the one who was in charge of that meeting the same day that the actual military, the Iraqi military investigation began about who was actually responsible.
But I'm going to read to you from this. And in fact, I want to read to our viewers about this. Listen to this. At the president's direction, United States Armed Forces conducted an airstrike in Iraq on January 2nd, killing this dude, Soleimani, and leader of Iran. The purpose of this action was to protect the United States personnel, deter Iran from conducting or supporting further attacks against the United States forces, and interest to degrade Iran, the Quds forces, backed militias' ability to conduct attacks, and to end Iran's strategic escalation of attacks and threats to the United States. So this is the memo he sends to Congress. If I'm a member of Congress, I should read this and call the White House and say, I just read your memo. It doesn't say anything. Your job is to tell us why you did something, not what ifs and vague generalities. Why don't they do that?
Well, primarily because the mass media in the United States is continuing to say, except for that one story in the New York Times, that the problem is Iran and Soleimani, and that's what we have to focus on.
They're bad people.
They're bad people,
yeah.
And it was worth it to kill Soleimani. Really, the Democrats and the corporate media have no problem with that.
But again, let me rephrase my question. This memo was sent to Congress. Where is my senator?
Right.
Where is my congressperson? Why aren't they saying, could you please give us more specifics, or is this just going to be like thrown away?
Well, I mean, the problem is really much more fundamental, that we have a Congress that really listens to the same people that are causing the problem. They listen to the national security people who were in charge, and Pompeo was in charge then. Even though he's discredited, they're still not asking the right questions.
But the 1975 hearing said we, the United States, do not assassinate anymore. We're not supposed to, it's your famous church committee, we're not supposed to, it says in the book, the law says we cannot assassinate foreign leaders unless there's really, like they're about to nuke us or something. Here we have proof that there was no proof to do this, and nobody's doing anything about it.
But behind that, there's another story, which has not been published by practically anybody. I've covered it myself. And that is that before that attack in December, that we now know was not Soleimani's work, the Iranians and their allies in Iraq were very careful not to kill any Americans. It's clear the CIA knew very well that they were trying to do that. They were trying to avoid it. So something else was going on. The Israelis were carrying out a series of attacks in the Middle East, specifically in Iraq, against pro-Iranian militias. Why did they do that at that point? They were working with Pompeo.
To do what?
Very clear. To provoke war with Iran. They were hoping the Iranians would react and give Pompeo the opportunity to get Trump to go to war with.
This is an important conversation. You obviously know a lot about it. Can you come on again?
Of course.
I want to continue these conversations because I think it's important as Americans that we know this stuff.
And it's not getting
nobody else seems to be talking about it. Thank you again.
Thank you.